Alright, the first command we're going to go over is called place. So in this video, I'm going to show some stuff on leash as well as some stuff off leash, just to give you an idea of how it all works, how we started and how we got where we are today. So when I ask her to go to place, she should run to the bed and stay on the bed until told otherwise. You see me fumble the leash a little when I was trying to untangle it, but the whole idea is place means stay on your bed. So if she's out of control, zooming around, if she's jumping on people like she shouldn't be, if you don't want her begging while you're eating, place is a great command to use to keep her contained while you do what you got to do. When it comes to a place stay, the only rule is she has to keep all four paws on the bed. So if she gets off the bed at any point, we're going to mark it with a no, and we'll correct that behavior. Or right there, when I want her off the bed, I'm going to release her with a free. So place is kind of like the on switch, and free is the off switch. So anytime I say place, she needs to get herself onto the bed, and anytime I say free, that means she can get off. Anything in between, like as I walk out of frame here, if she gets off the bed, I'm going to mark it with a no. I will give her a light tug of the leash, and I will tell her place. So the no, the most important part of it is following up with that tug. Early on in training, you want to show her that no is basically the word plus a consequence. I want no to hold value so you don't have to have a leash on her whole life. And the way we do that is we build up its value. Kind of like how Pavlov rang the bell and dogs would salivate. I want to show her if she does something wrong, she'll hear the word no, and it will be followed by something she doesn't like. It could be a spray bottle of water, or like in this video here, using a leash. So the rule of place is simple. If you stay on the bed, I will reward you. If you get off the bed before that free, I will mark it no, give a consequence, and take you back to the bed. The most important part is being consistent. So when you start off at home, I'm going to have you do it on a leash, just so where the same rules apply. And then I'll have you eventually graduate to like I have there, which is just a slip collar on her. So that way there's still a handle to follow through with, but at the same time, she's not, dragging a full 6-foot leash and getting it caught on things. Place doesn't have to be on this specific bed her whole life, but the whole idea of it is simple. When place is set and she's given direction to go to a bed, she should get on that bed and stay there until told otherwise. This next little bit, I'm just showing the same thing with place stay, which is that she can do it even without a leash, and she's really enthusiastic about her current bed. So I mentioned earlier you can use any kind of bed you'd like. However, I will say an elevated cot like mine might be best to start with, just because, of course, she spent several weeks now with me hanging out on this bed whenever she's doing a place stay. You can even use her couch or her kennel. She loves the kennel as well. But the whole idea of place is that she can be with the family, but contained in her own space. The nice thing about place too is it can move around the house. Like I record this video against that nice flat wall, but over off frame to the right is where I normally keep it in my living space right next to the TV. But the most important thing with place is like with anything, I talked about consequence already. We got to teach her to deal with distractions, and we got to teach her that she can get rewarded. So right there, I threw a treat on the ground. You saw her look down at it. She really wanted it, but she didn't get off the bed to get it because she knows she's on place. I then rewarded her with treat, showing her there is a reward for good choices, and it's not just punishment for doing bad. Then of course I released her with the free command, and we're going to move on to our next command. Next up is going to be sit, which everyone knows what a sit stay is. It's just simple. They put their butt on the ground when asked to, and they stay there. I'm going to use it in the video already because I asked her to sit to put the leash on to demonstrate how we can use the leash to help her with her sit stays. In my training, we don't just keep asking her to sit till she does it or guide her over and over again. Instead, we make her sit. So I just referenced right there using a light pressure on the leash to make her sit. Just like the word, as you saw there, if I pull up just a little bit on the leash, her butt will sink right to the ground. That way, if there's ever a time where she'd rather do something else and she doesn't want to sit, I can make her sit. But more importantly, we're going to do a couple just quick sits here with some distance work. Sit is just like place. If I say to do it, it's an on switch, and until I say free, she is stuck there. One thing to note with her, she's a happy girl. In her sit, sometimes her butt vibrates a little bit and she takes like a half step or something like that. I'm not necessarily going to get really on her for it. I just want to make sure she doesn't go from a sit when I ask her to zoom it across the room or, trying to run out the front door, something like that. So when it comes to a sit stay, I ask once. If she doesn't do it, I would mark it no and correct her. However, I don't think in this video she ever doesn't sit when she's told to. It's more of a matter of once or twice she gets up, like here, I mark it no, correct her. And I'm going to try to guide her back to where she started, because when I want her to sit and I tell her to sit down in a spot, I want her to stay there. A good example I use for people is if I tell a dog to sit and I go to the kitchen and she comes to the kitchen and sits next to me while I'm cooking, because she'd rather be close to me, and I let her do that, well then she knows she can do what she wants. If you want the sit stay to work, you got to make sure you take her back to where she started. But on that same note, not a lot of people do sit stays formally out and about, other than when they're on things like walks. Just know that with your sit stay, if you ask her to sit, she should put butt right to ground, and if she doesn't, we can follow it with no correction and, well, hold her accountable for her actions. I believe I'll do 1 or 2 more just non-leash sits just to show what she can do, and we're going to then move on to downstays, which is the exact same concept as the sit stay, except it's a little bit trickier. But the whole idea with sit stays is simple. Sit till you say free. Now for downstays, there's still a little bit of a hand gesture with it, but the whole idea is I say down and point downwards. With the downstay, this one is the hardest one to make her do. So what I mean by that is submissive dogs will down out of submission. So if they break position, a lot of times they'll just put themselves back down. All I try to do with her is keep it as positive as possible. Like right there, she sat instead of downing, so I gave her a second command, and then I pointed downwards for her. If at any point, like right there, she gets up when she was supposed to be in a down, just like sit, I'm going to take her back, and I'm going to ask her to down where she was. The most important factor is I don't want to teach her that she can get up and run away, just like I mentioned earlier with sits. For down stays and sit stays, if you want to put her into a sit, it's pressure up on the leash. If you want to put her into a down, it's pressure down on the leash. The important thing is you do not start by adding that pressure. You ask first, but if she doesn't do it, like you're going to see there, I'm going to add that light pressure downwards, and then I'm going to wait a second or two, and she's going to go into the down. Now I'm going to point there that the second hand, I wasn't putting 2 hands on the leash to like drag her down. The second hand, I just pointed downwards with it. There was just a weird angle for that video. So if you need to make her down, just like you're going to see her, it's first the tug if she breaks it, but then light pressure downwards until she goes into that positioning. It's important to know with anything in a training session or in practical use, distraction, things like that will play a factor. If you're practicing and training and she's failing over and over again for any of the commands we're going over in this video, it's best to always end teaching moments on a good note. So if she does have a hard time, like right there, she had a couple bad downs, but now she had a good one where she went into position. Right away, I told her free and got out of there because I was like, okay, hey, let's move along with our session here. The next thing we're going to go over is the game I play with recalls before I take them outside. So when I first brought her home with me, I brainwashed her to enjoy this little game of chase to where I'll have 2 pieces of kibble, or in this case, a training treat, and I'll get her attention and send her out to grab that piece of food. So I'll throw 1 piece away, and then after she's eaten it, I call her back and get excited and give her a food for coming to me. So Koa come, or just come, is her command for a recall. So you can play this little game at home or try to just do what I'm going to do outside next. I just tripped over her in the video here. But I'm just going to do 1 more rep on there where I threw out food for her to get distracted where you can see it. And I'm going to call her back to me and give her more food. The whole idea is simple. We start this little game to teach them if you come back, there's going to be food. But it also helps to throw food away to distract them because if they're just smelling something or doing something on their own, they might not want to come back. Now we're doing it outside. This is where she's at current day, to where if you saw there in the video, my guineas and turkeys were in the yard. She was showing some interest, and I can call them right off of the birds. So in this video now, she's at a point to where she's so excited to come back. Well, she sat down over there instead of coming to me originally, but she comes back and offers that lay down or sit stay. Now, one thing to note is she did jump twice in this video for recall. I found that she gets very excited when running back. She builds up all that momentum. I just mark it with a no. We'll go over jumping when I meet with you guys for your session. But all recalls should be in time as they're just excitedly hearing the word come and zooming right back to you no matter what she's doing and how free she is.